We'll have a look at some of the issues that surround declarations of trust. We'll have a look at undue influence and how that can affect matters in relation to joint ownership. We'll have a look at overriding interests. As we all know, they're a fantastic thing that keep coming up and we keep getting asked forms about them, but I'll come into more depth on those later on. We'll have a look at an inheritance tax and issues we need to consider from a property point of view when it comes to joint ownership. And we'll also have a look at severing joint ownership with some illustrative cases of the lovely, lovely way that human beings treat each other. And these are absolute doozies, the cases that we'll look at. Having said that, most case law, when it ends up in court, is indicative of the fact that the parties are perhaps not as in love as perhaps they once might have been. Undue influence. This is quite a big topic, undue influence, and I'm only going to touch upon it briefly today. But undue influence essentially is when you persuade someone to do something that's against their will when they didn't want to do it in the first place, and it might not be in their best interests. There are certain presumptive relationships that have undue influence. Believe it or not, lawyer and client is one of them. One of the other is a priest or sort of clergy with parishioner, and accountant with client as well. Anywhere that you have a disparity in potential influence because one is more educated than the other seems to be the perception. Whether they've got bank manager and customer, I don't know, but I think that's something that could potentially come about. Most of the case law you see with undue influence tends to be where parties are linked romantically, and then there's some con taking place, for want of a better phrase, where there's a Romeo sting or one of these sort of online dating stings that takes place where people pay money across to an unsuspecting love interest who's always abroad. But Royal Bank in Scotland and Ettridge was a seminal case on this that came about where there were 11 cases brought before the courts that were decided on the basis where predominantly Mr. In fact, I think all 11 cases were where Mr. had borrowed money against the matrimonial home to the detriment of Mrs., normally to prop their business up. And Mrs. had signed a second charge or a main charge, and then husband's business had gone belly up, and wife was left without a home for her and the kids. And so Ettridge was all about making sure that not third parties, but spouses and those buying property together and borrowing money together, that the second party fully knew what they were signing up to. It's really important to make sure that if you've got two people borrowing money, that they both know and are advised of what their rights are and what they're signing up to.